When SunSpider runs, you actually get these different characters up here at the top, depending on the browser you're coming in through. So it's kind of fun.
I wonder what that means.
I don't know.
So let me ask a question, because this is something that we started talking with Dean over in our talks we had with him. And that is, so Google Chrome is down at 436 milliseconds, right? The question I would ask is, how fast does JavaScript really need to go to be useful? What kind of computations are we talking about here? We're not, I think that is important, because at the end of the day, it's a collective, it's an aggregate of all this different type of functionality that in the end is user experience. I want to check my mail. I want to write some mail. How do you guys think about that? Is it just, we got to be this fast and move this bit here? Let's think about that. Let's talk about it.
The way we look at it is, we're the JavaScript team, so our job, we're going to go as fast as we can.
Okay.
The user experience of the browser is composed of dozens of things that you experience, everything from how quickly the browser loads, to its memory utilization, to how quickly it renders graphics, to table layout. There are thousands of elements that actually comprise the experience that a person gets off of kind of loading and running a page. When you actually get harshly engineering brutal and attach a profiler to a browser and you watch, you get very different profiles of where the browser is spending time, which subsystem it's spending time in, depending on what the site is. Even two very similar sites, like two news sites, you take MSNBC and CNN, you're going to get very different profiles of, hey, I'm spending this much time in the DOM, and this much time in script, and this much time in rendering, and this much time in layout, and this much time in networking. And you hit the other site, and those numbers could be, the amount of time spent in script on one site or another. SunSpider is virtually 100% in script, but
sure.
The typical site is no more than a third, usually down to kind of 5%-ish. So we contribute quite a bit, especially to more modern applications, like real applications that are lots and lots of JavaScript. So you hit a site like the Office Web Companions, which is hundreds of thousands of lines of JavaScript code, and it's doing on-the-fly spell checking. Yeah, that matters a lot. You got to get your script perf up to make that work. You hit a simpler site, or a site that's been optimized for an older browser, they're going to be a lot more sensitive about the amount of script they're actually putting in, and you're going to probably find a lot more time spent in rendering or layout or something else. So it's just tremendously dependent on the site.
Cool. And so I want to ask a question to the ranking individual in here, Shanku, who's the GM, who owns the group. What's what are we trying to do? Or, when you think of it, you're just like, we got to be as fast as Chrome. Is that your goal? You look at the board and go, not there yet, not yet. Or is there something, what goes through your mind? What are we trying to do exactly?
I think, to me, performance is one dimension of, ultimately it's about the users who are using the browser to do more of their work on the web, and the developers who are building those experiences. And ultimately performance is one element of that, to make that experience better for users and developers. But if you look at the kind of web apps or the websites that we were running 10 years ago, and you compare them to what you have today, it's tremendous to see the differences. Yet the web is this kind of collective thing of everything that's been kind of built up over the years, all of the content you have access to, all of the new applications you're running. And I think one of the big challenges to me is we're building a platform and an experience that works for all of that. And that works fast, that works securely, that handles a lot of the compatibility challenges. So you're still able to view that web page that you're dependent on for your job, or that you want to get the information from. That we're doing all of those things in a balanced way, and that to me is kind of the challenge. And big part of that is some really good fun stuff to kind of get the performance out of it.
Interesting. And so do you see, when we look out at the landscape, this will sort of be the last question, because I know you guys are busy, and the question I would ask is, how are people using JavaScript as a language, as something to compose an algorithm? So, for example, in some sense, I see a lot of JavaScript in a web page being used to manipulate elements on the page, to play with the DOM, to play that game. But it's not used to say what I do in C++, to do some rendering of graphics and hard computation, super fast computation. So where do you draw the line? Do you see people actually using JavaScript in the future to do really complex algorithms, computation? Do you see that, or or not?
I think it's a mix of the interesting thing is JavaScript as a language has kind of grown up with the web, and I would say scripting has grown up with the web.
Sure.
It's actually turns out it's not just about JavaScript. One of the challenges that we're facing is when you go look out at the web, there are other scripting languages like VBScript.
Ah, VBScript. I was hoping I'd get you to say that. Okay.
VBScript, you think, like, who uses VBScript anymore, right? Well, it turns out there are actually some well-known popular sites that you could go visit today that when they detect IE, they actually use VBScript. And,
Wow.
and we're having to deal with that when we think about compatibility and getting our engine working. But JavaScript is basically it's evolved together with the web. And when I look at when we look at the web, it's what's amazing is just the sheer diversity of people doing interesting things on the web, whether they're building applications, whether they're people putting out cool ray tracing apps, there are people building little frameworks, and some of them that are in lots of popular use, or people just using JavaScript as little things for mouse overs or stitching together little things. And I think the interesting thing about JavaScript in the web platform is it's got to kind of handle that multitude of stuff, and it's here, and there isn't a good reason to kind of go change it all out. So I think we're kind of all in it together, both building the runtimes and then working with developers and users to go evolve the language to keep meeting their needs.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you guys for your time, and I look forward to coming back and get Steve on the whiteboard, and maybe we'll bring Eric along. We'll do one of those expert to experts with Steve.
That sounds fantastic.
I think people would love that. Great job, you guys.
Thank you very much for your time.
Really awesome. Thank you.